For anyone worried about whether Christopher Nolan's gone off the boil after the, let's be honest here, pretty big disappointment that was Tenet, you needn't be. Oppenheimer's a good film. A very good one, in fact. And as long as your backside can take its just over 3-hour runtime and you can focus on a somewhat complex movie that demands your attention, you'll find a lot to like here. The movie is Nolan's first biopic and is based on the Pulitzer Prize-winning book American Prometheus by Kai Bird and Martin J. Sherwin, who I'm sure enjoyed the sound of the dollars dropping into their bank accounts when they got the call. That title, as well as Nolan's own, is pretty appropriate for the movie, because ultimately that's what Oppenheimer is about. J. Robert Oppenheimer, the American scientist on whom the film is based, was a modern-day Prometheus, giving fire to humanity in the shape of the atomic bomb. The movie actually tells two stories though. The first and simplest is that race against the Nazis to build the bomb. Oppenheimer, an up-and-coming young physicist, is taken out of his academic life by Matt Damon's army man Leslie Groves and tasked with setting up a new hidden laboratory in Los Alamos, New Mexico. Cue a superhero gathering the team sequence in which Oppenheimer convinces the best scientists of the day to join him. After a few ups and downs, they get the bomb built and we're faced with a simple question. Will its test detonation work and allow the Allies to win the war, or will it set the atmosphere alight, destroying pretty much everything on Earth? The second strand of the story mirrors this first one, but with the grand international machinations becoming more personal. After the war's won, Oppenheimer's fame grows, and he uses it to speak out against nuclear proliferation, earning the ire of his former mentor, Robert Downey Jr.'s Lewis Strauss. Resolving to destroy Oppenheimer, Strauss digs up his past involvement with the Communist Party. But is Oppenheimer really a spy? We're left to find out. If that story summary sounds a little dry, it's because on the surface it is. This is a movie about science. But in the expert hands of Christopher Nolan, and he really is an expert now, it's evident in almost every moment of this film, it sings. Nolan teases out the human interest in the atomic story, Oppenheimer's battle to get ahead in his scientific career, the grumbles between colleagues trying to devise the bomb, the people left behind, the stress, the pressure, the doubts. It's a serious film with very little humour, and the small amount there is generally provided by Matt Damon's Leslie Groves character, the gruff, no-nonsense army officer in charge of the project. Damon has been killing it recently. He's always been one of Hollywood's most consistent actors, and he's great in this too, bringing Groves to life with a relatable warmth and a wink in his eye. The cast of Oppenheimer is brilliant generally, with Alden Ehrenreich, Scott Grimes, Jason Clarke, Kenneth Branagh, Florence Pugh, Gary Oldman, Josh Hartnett, Rami Malek, Casey Affleck, Matthew Modine and more, all adding to the already stellar main cast. I'm surprised there was anyone left in Hollywood to film anything while Nolan was working on Oppenheimer. But it is the main quartet who steal the show. Matt Damon, already mentioned, is complemented by Emily Blunt, who does well enough with a limited role, nearly hijacking the end of the film with an excellent scene at the board hearing. Robert Downey Jr. is fantastic as the twitchy, slimy Lewis Strauss, lulling you in with a friendly everyman persona, only to leave you snarling at him by the end. But it's Cillian Murphy's film. He utterly dominates in a performance that is by far the best of his career, and one almost certain to earn him a Best Actor nomination, and probably a win too. I suspect we'll be seeing him leading a lot more films over the next few years, and rightly so. The movie is built around his character. It's called Oppenheimer for a reason, and at times the performance is so immersive that it's easy to forget it's Murphy on screen. There is range to this performance, breadth. Apparently Nolan didn't even have Murphy audition for the role, he was so sure he was right for the job. You can't argue with the results. As usual, Nolan eschews CGI and opts instead for practical effects, and the film looks gorgeous and grounded because of that. The sets are expansive, the colour tone ebbs and flows, and that lovely film grain we get because of his commitment to non-digital film only adds to Los Alamos' dusty dryness. But it wouldn't be a review of a movie about the making of the atomic bomb if we didn't mention the explosion itself. And the Trinity test, that first time they ever detonated a nuclear weapon, functions as the pivot and the midpoint of this movie. It would have been easy for Nolan to go for something bombastic, literally, the roaring, crashing heat of a nuclear fire, but he opts instead for silence, accompanying an image of writhing orange and red that speaks to the bomb's power. The slow, tense, perfectly handled build-up to this test firing only adds to the effect. It's not a perfect film. Like all Christopher Nolan movies, especially his other historical film Dunkirk, it focuses too much on the bigger picture at the expense of close character work. In a biopic like this, that's probably the wrong balance, even if Oppenheimer gets closer than any of his movies before to finding the right one. The first 2/3 of the film are perfectly paced, but when it shifts to the political drama at the end, it can get a little plodding, even if the story during these sections is absorbing enough. And I'm not sure why Nolan felt the need to go with a colour section and a black and white section to the movie, other than the obvious one of dividing up timelines. It certainly doesn't add anything else. And if I was being really harsh, I'd say the script does throw in everything, the kitchen sink, and a penny Nolan found down the back of the couch too. It's a bit much and a bit muddled at times. There are apparently no deleted scenes for this movie. A bit of pruning might not have been a bad idea. As a promise to his wife, Matt Damon was on a bit of a break from acting before he got the gig on this film. His only caveat was that if Nolan called offering him a role, he could say yes. There's a reason for that. Christopher Nolan makes the kinds of movies we all want more of. Thoughtful, well-acted, well-written, visually spectacular, and unblighted by CGI. Tenet was a blip, but Oppenheimer is a resounding return to form, second only perhaps to his masterpiece, The Dark Knight, in his filmography. We're lucky, really. If the modern-day Prometheus, Christopher Nolan, wants to keep giving us fire, who are we to stop him? Anyway, nothing more to say. This is Movie Maverick, signing out.